Princess Liara walked slowly through the palace gardens, her bare feet brushing against the soft, glowing grass. The evening wind carried the scent of strange flowers from distant planets. Her mind felt heavy with memories she could not fully understand. She stopped by a fountain, staring at her reflection in the shimmering water. For a moment, she almost did not recognize herself. It was not her face that confused her, but the feelings that stirred deep within her heart. A memory flashed, bright, fleeting, and strange, of a human reaching for her hand, pulling her away from danger. She remembered his eyes, warm and calm, and his voice telling her she was safe. The memory felt so real, yet so impossible. No one in the royal court knew of this human, and yet, she could not forget him. Liara shook her head, trying to dismiss the visions. The court had always told her that humans were myths, creatures of legend that existed only in stories. But she knew the truth in her bones. She had been saved by a human once, and somehow, somewhere, he had changed her life. The palace felt like a cage now, the marble walls cold and silent. She longed for something beyond the golden gates, something real and alive. Liara's heart raced as she thought of the human again. Could he still be alive, somewhere in the galaxy? The thought gave her both hope and fear. If he was gone, she would never forgive herself for waiting too long. She wandered deeper into the gardens, passing statues of kings and queens long gone. Their stone eyes seemed to watch her, judging her desire to escape the palace life. A group of servants passed by, whispering about her strange behavior. "She speaks to the wind as if it will answer her," one said. Liara did not care. She could no longer ignore the pull of her memory. Every corner of the palace reminded her of what she had lost and what she needed to find. She paused by an old tree, its roots curling like the arms of a sleeping giant. Liara placed her hand on the bark, closing her eyes. She felt a strange warmth, almost as if the tree itself remembered her past. The image of the human came again, stronger this time. His hand reached out to her, a silent promise she could not ignore. A sudden noise startled her, a shadow moving near the palace wall. Liara's heart jumped, and she pressed herself against the tree. Her breath came in short, quick gasps as she peered into the darkness. Nothing moved, but the feeling of being watched lingered. She realized that the palace was not as safe as she had believed. Her curiosity about the human had awakened something beyond her understanding. A sense of adventure and danger mixed with the hope of reunion. Liara knew she could not wait any longer. She needed to find him, no matter the risks. That night, Liara stood by her window, gazing at the stars. The sky was filled with strange colors, streaks of green and purple light dancing above distant planets. She traced the paths with her finger, imagining the places where the human might be. The wind whispered through her hair, carrying promises of a journey far from the palace. Her mind was made up. She would leave, and nothing would stop her. The memory of the human, the one who had saved her years ago, had become a flame in her heart, a flame that demanded she act. Liara took a deep breath, feeling fear, excitement, and determination all at once. She did not know what dangers awaited her, but she knew the adventure of a lifetime was calling. Her first step would be the hardest, leaving everything familiar behind. And yet, her heart told her it was the only way. As the palace clock struck midnight, Liara quietly opened her door. The halls were empty, the guards asleep or distracted. She moved like a shadow, careful not to make a sound. Every step she took brought her closer to the truth she had been chasing for years. The human who saved her, the one she had never forgotten. Liara's journey had begun, and nothing in the galaxy could turn her back now. Liara moved silently through the palace halls, her heart pounding like a drum. The moonlight spilled across the marble floors, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch after her. Every step she took reminded her of the life she was leaving behind. The golden walls, the royal banners, the servants, all familiar, yet suddenly suffocating. She paused near the main gate, glancing at the guards who slept unaware. With a careful push, the gate creaked open, and the cool night air rushed in. Liara inhaled deeply, the scent of alien blossoms filling her senses. Freedom had never smelled so sweet. Outside, the streets were empty, but the city felt alive in its own quiet way. Strange lights flickered in the distance, and alien creatures moved silently along the rooftops. Liara hugged her cloak tightly around her, blending into the shadows. Every corner seemed dangerous, every alley a potential trap. She remembered the stories of humans being lost to the wild planets. Her pulse quickened, but she refused to turn back. The human who saved her years ago waited somewhere, and she had to find him. Liara's thoughts kept drifting to her childhood, to the day when she had nearly fallen from the palace tower. A hand had caught hers, steady and strong. The human's face was a blur, but his courage was clear in her memory. She had promised herself she would never forget. Now, that promise led her into a world full of danger and uncertainty. Yet the unknown felt better than staying in the golden cage of her palace. As she walked through the narrow streets, she noticed movement in the shadows. Small, four-legged creatures with glowing eyes watched her silently. She froze for a moment, calculating her next step. Quick thinking was her only weapon now. A sharp stone clattered under her foot, and the creatures paused. Liara held her breath and tiptoed past them, heart hammering. Every step brought her closer to the outskirts, closer to the edge of the city. Hours passed, and the palace disappeared behind her, swallowed by the night. The streets gave way to rough paths and alien forests. The stars above were brighter here, guiding her through the darkness. Liara could feel the energy of the planets around her, pulsing like a heartbeat. She knew the human she sought could be anywhere, even on these distant plains. Her legs ached, but determination fueled her every move. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence, a low growl echoing from the trees. Liara spun around, eyes wide, searching for the source. A shadow lunged from the underbrush, large and terrifying. She barely managed to dodge, rolling to the side. The creature snarled, sharp teeth glinting under the moonlight. Liara grabbed a fallen branch, swinging it with all her strength. The creature hesitated, then retreated into the darkness. Her heart raced, but she smiled faintly. Every challenge made her stronger. Every danger reminded her why she could not turn back. Night stretched on, and exhaustion weighed heavily on her. She climbed over cliffs, crossed small streams, and hid in caves when strange predators approached. Still, the memory of the human, his hand reaching for hers, kept her moving. Liara whispered to herself, promising she would find him. No matter what it took, no matter what dangers awaited, she would not stop. The universe was vast and full of threats, but it was also full of hope. And hope, she realized, was stronger than fear. As dawn began to break, painting the sky with streaks of pink and gold, Liara finally glimpsed a small village in the distance, tucked between hills and forests. Her heart leapt, sensing that her journey was nearing its first reward. Somewhere in that village, her human savior might still be alive, waiting, unknowingly, for her return. Liara tightened her cloak, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. The forbidden journey was only halfway done. An adventure, danger, and revelation awaited her at every turn. Liara's heart raced as she approached the village at the edge of the forest. The houses were small and strange, built from glowing metals and crystal panels. The streets were quiet, almost too quiet. She kept to the shadows, scanning every corner, every alley, every flickering light. Her eyes searched for a figure, a human who might recognize her. Her memory of him was faint, but it burned in her mind like a guiding star. She had to find him. She had to know if he was alive. A figure appeared near the center of the village, carrying bundles of supplies. Liara's breath caught in her throat. Could it be him, after all these years, standing there so ordinary and real? She stepped forward cautiously, her cloak hiding her face. The human looked strong, older than she remembered, with broad shoulders and careful movements. He seemed unaware of the world beyond the village, unaware of her coming. Liara's legs trembled as she called out softly, "Ethan." The name escaped her lips like a prayer. The human froze, his head turning slowly toward her voice. For a moment, neither spoke, only the wind carrying the tension between them. Recognition flashed in his eyes, confusion and disbelief mixing with memory. He lowered the bundles he carried, his hands trembling slightly. "Liara," he whispered, his voice almost breaking. Her heart leapt, and tears pricked her eyes. "Yes, it's me," she said, stepping closer. He took a cautious step forward, studying her face. The years had changed them both, but the connection they shared was unmistakable. It was the same bond from the day he had saved her, the same courage, the same trust. The villagers noticed nothing, the human and the princess standing in silence. Liara's mind raced with words she wanted to say, stories to tell, emotions to share. But Ethan seemed frozen in disbelief. How is this possible? He asked, his voice barely audible. Liara reached out, her hand trembling. I don't know, she admitted. But I never forgot you, never stopped thinking about you. Ethan looked at her closely, the years of separation melting away. Memories of a small girl in his arms, crying and scared, returned vividly. He remembered the promise he made to protect her, though he had never seen her again. I thought I lost you forever, he murmured. Liara shook her head, tears falling freely now. You didn't, she whispered. I remembered, and I found you. Suddenly, a noise from the village square startled them both. A patrol of alien guards passed by, their armor glinting under the morning sun. Liara grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him into the shadows. They crouched behind a wall, hearts pounding. Ethan looked at her, his expression a mix of fear and awe. Why are they here? He asked. Liara shook her head. I don't know, but we must be careful. The human's eyes met hers, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Years of separation, danger, and uncertainty vanished in a single glance. Liara realized how much she had grown, how much courage she carried. And Ethan realized how much he still cared, how much he wanted to protect her. The world around them was dangerous, full of secrets and threats. But for the first time in years, they were together. And together, they would face whatever came next. Liara smiled faintly, holding his gaze. Come with me, she said softly. There's so much to tell, so much to see. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. The journey they had dreamed of for years was finally beginning. But danger was still near, and adventure awaited them at every turn. The universe had more challenges in store, and their story had only just begun. Liara and Ethan moved cautiously through the winding paths beyond the village. The forest stretched endlessly, shadows twisting under the strange light of distant planets. Every sound seemed amplified, leaves rustling like whispers, distant creatures growling unseen. Liara's hand tightened on Ethan's arm, her instincts alert. She remembered stories of travelers lost in these woods, swallowed by predators and alien storms. But fear did not stop her, courage pushed her forward. A sudden movement caught their attention, a blur of silver and green. Before they could react, a group of alien scouts emerged from the shadows. Their armor glinted, weapons raised, eyes sharp and unyielding. Liara froze, but Ethan instinctively stepped in front of her, protective and ready. Stay calm, he whispered. We can get through this. Liara nodded, her mind racing for a plan. The scouts advanced, their voices low and threatening. Liara realized running would only make them targets. She took a deep breath, focusing on the strange energy she had felt in the palace. Her hands glowed faintly, a warmth spreading from her fingers. The scouts hesitated, sensing something unusual in her presence. Liara's heart raced as she realized her royal lineage gave her more than just a title. It gave her power, power she had never known until now. Ethan glanced at her, surprise and awe in his eyes. Use it, he said quietly. I'll follow your lead. Liara stepped forward, raising her hands, and the air around them shimmered. The scouts faltered, unsure what force they faced. Liara's energy surged, creating a barrier that pushed them back. The ground trembled, and branches snapped under the weight of her power. Ethan watched, amazed, as the princess he had saved years ago now stood as a force in her own right. The scouts regrouped, more cautious now, their leader signaling to retreat. Liara lowered her hands, breathing heavily, her energy fading. Ethan reached for her, steadying her. You were amazing, he said softly, awe in his voice. Liara smiled faintly, still catching her breath. This is only the beginning, she whispered, determination in her eyes. As they moved deeper into the forest, the danger did not end. Strange creatures lurked in the darkness, drawn by her power and the human beside her. A sudden roar echoed from the cliffs above, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Liara grabbed Ethan's hand, pulling him behind a large rock. A massive predator emerged, scales glinting in the moonlight, eyes fixed on them. Ethan's hand went to his weapon, but Liara stopped him. "Trust me," she said, her voice steady. "We can do this together." Drawing on her energy again, Liara created a glowing shield around them. The predator lunged, and the shield absorbed the impact, sending sparks into the night. Ethan's eyes widened, impressed by her control and bravery. Liara focused, pushing the creature back with a wave of energy. It roared in frustration, retreating into the shadows. For a moment, silence returned, only their breaths and the distant sounds of the forest remaining. Ethan turned to her, admiration and respect clear on his face. "You're not the same little girl I saved," he said, smiling. "You're stronger, braver, unstoppable." Liara laughed softly, tension melting for a brief moment. "Yes, but I still need you," she said quietly, hand in his. Together, they moved forward, knowing that the path ahead was dangerous. But for the first time, they faced it side by side. The universe was vast, full of threats and adventure, and nothing would stop them from reaching the truth and reuniting fully. Liara and Ethan finally found a quiet clearing, bathed in soft starlight. The forest around them was alive with whispers of alien winds, distant calls of creatures, and the faint glow of bioluminescent plants. For a moment, the dangers of the night seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them. Liara's heart pounded as she looked at Ethan, his face lit softly by the starlight. Years of separation, uncertainty, and unspoken feelings weighed heavily on her. She realized she could not hide the truth any longer. "Ethan," she began, her voice trembling slightly. He turned to her, concern and curiosity in his eyes. "I have to tell you something," she continued. "Something I've carried with me for all these years." Ethan stepped closer, the warmth of his presence calming her nerves. "You saved me once," she whispered, "and I never forgot you, not even for a single day." Ethan blinked, the memory of holding a frightened little princess rushing back. He opened his mouth to speak, but Liara hurried on, words tumbling out. "I thought about you every night, wondering if you were alive, wondering if I could ever see you again." Her eyes glistened with tears, reflecting the light of distant planets. I feel more than gratitude, more than admiration," she admitted, her voice catching. I think I've always cared for you, even when I didn't understand it." Ethan's eyes softened, emotions he had long buried rising to the surface. He reached for her hand, holding it gently, almost afraid to break the fragile moment. "Liara," he said, voice low and filled with awe, "I never thought I'd see you again. I never stopped thinking about you either," he added, "but I never knew how to find you." Their hands tightened together, and the universe around them seemed to pause. Even the alien forest held its breath, the night waiting for their next move. A distant howl reminded them that danger was never far. But in that instant, it didn't matter. Liara and Ethan stood together, hearts beating in rhythm, finding courage in each other. "I was afraid," Liara confessed, "afraid that you might not feel the same, that you wouldn't remember." Ethan shook his head, smiling softly. "I remember everything," he said, "and I feel the same, more than I can say." They laughed quietly, the tension of the past few hours melting into relief. But even as they embraced the moment, the world around them whispered reminders of what lay ahead. The alien scouts, the dangerous creatures, the unknown threats of planets beyond. Liara looked at Ethan, determination returning to her eyes. "No matter what happens," she said, "we face it together." Ethan nodded, his hand brushing her hair back from her face. "Together," he agreed, voice steady, full of promise. The night sky stretched endlessly above them, stars twinkling like distant memories and dreams. Liara realized that for the first time, she was not afraid. The human who had saved her as a child now stood by her side as an equal, a protector, and perhaps something more. The journey ahead would test them, push them to their limits. But for now, the confession had lifted a weight from her heart, and Ethan's presence reminded her that love, courage, and trust were stronger than fear. Hand in hand, they moved forward into the night. The universe awaited, full of mysteries, danger, and adventure. But together, they felt unstoppable, ready to face the unknown. And the bond between princess and human, forged years ago in a moment of bravery, grew stronger with every step. Liara and Ethan approached the edge of the forest, the silhouette of the palace visible on the horizon. The golden towers gleamed in the morning sun, a stark reminder of the life Liara was leaving behind. But she walked with purpose, shoulders straight, eyes focused. Ethan stayed close, alert to every sound, ready for anything. The path was quiet, but tension hung in the air like a storm cloud. They both knew that returning meant facing the royal guards and the council. No one would let the princess leave so easily. As they reached the palace gates, a group of guards appeared, their weapons raised. "Princess Liara," the captain called, "return to your chambers at once." Liara stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "I will not return," she said, her words echoing in the courtyard. The guards stiffened, surprised by her courage. The captain frowned. "You are breaking royal law, princess, by leaving without permission." Liara took a deep breath, remembering the energy that had protected her before. "I choose my own path," she declared. "And I am not alone," she added, glancing at Ethan. Ethan stepped beside her, ready to defend her if needed. The guards hesitated, unsure how to respond to a human standing beside a princess with power. Liara raised her hand slightly, a subtle glow surrounding her. The energy was enough to make the guards pause, giving her confidence. "This is my decision," she said again, louder. "I will not be confined by rules or fear." A messenger arrived, running quickly, bowing low. "The council demands your immediate return, princess," he said, voice trembling. Liara turned to the crowd that had gathered, including advisors and nobles. She spoke with clarity and authority. "I am grateful for your care, but I will not obey orders that deny me freedom." Murmurs spread through the crowd, some in shock, some in admiration. Even the council members hesitated, seeing her determination and power. Liara realized that courage and honesty could sway hearts more than fear ever could. The captain of the guards took a step forward, skeptical. "You risk your life and the honor of the palace," he said, voice low, but his confidence wavered. Liara met his gaze evenly. "I accept the risks," she said firmly, "but I will not abandon the one who saved me, nor the choice I make." The guards exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that the princess before them was not a child. She was a leader, a force of nature, someone who could not be controlled. Ethan squeezed her hand, silently telling her that he was with her no matter what. Liara felt strength in his presence, courage in their unity. The council deliberated in whispers, and the captain finally lowered his weapon. "It seems we have no choice," he muttered, bowing slightly. Liara nodded, grateful but vigilant, knowing that freedom always came with vigilance. With the guard stepping back, she turned fully to Ethan, a small smile on her lips. "Ready for the next step?" she asked. Ethan nodded, his eyes filled with pride and determination. The palace gates were open, the royal forces had been challenged, but the adventure was far from over. Liara and Ethan knew the universe held more trials, more dangers, and more mysteries. Yet they faced them together, stronger than ever. The princess had claimed her choice, and the human who saved her stood proudly at her side. Liara and Ethan walked through the palace courtyard, the sunlight glinting off golden towers. Courtiers and advisors had gathered, whispers running like wildfire through the halls. The royal court waited, tension thick in the air, curious and wary of what the princess would do. Liara took a deep breath, feeling every pair of eyes on her. She raised her chin, letting her presence fill the space. Ethan stayed beside her, calm and steady, a silent pillar of support. The head counselor stepped forward, voice sharp. "Princess Liara, what is the meaning of this? Why do you defy the council?" Liara's eyes met his, unwavering. "I defy nothing except fear and injustice," she said firmly. The court murmured, shocked by her boldness. "I have made a choice," Liara continued, "a choice that will define my life and my heart." She glanced at Ethan, hand brushing lightly against his, a silent signal of unity and trust. He nodded slightly, understanding the depth of her words. The counselor's voice rose. "You risk everything. The honor of the palace, your position, your people." Liara shook her head, voice strong. "True honor comes from courage and compassion, not chains or titles." Gasps echoed through the hall, nobles whispering to each other, some in admiration, others in disbelief. Liara's gaze swept across the crowd, and she spoke clearly. I choose to leave the palace and stand with the one who saved me, the human who showed me courage when I was helpless. A stunned silence followed, the court unable to believe what they had just heard. Even Ethan seemed frozen, though pride shone in his eyes. The counselor's face twisted in anger. You cannot. You are a princess. Your duty is to your people. Liara stepped forward, voice rising. My duty is to truth, to bravery, and to the choices I make. She lifted her hand slightly, letting a faint glow of her royal energy shimmer in the air. The nobles gasped, realizing her power was not just for show, it was real and undeniable. Ethan stepped closer, standing proudly beside her, ready to defend her if needed. Then, Liara spoke words that shook the entire court, her voice strong and unwavering. I declare that I will leave this palace and live my life with Ethan, the human who saved me. Shock rippled through the crowd, some faces pale with disbelief, others slowly nodding in awe. The council realized that no threat or order could sway her. Liara's courage and love had created a force stronger than any law or decree. Ethan reached for her hand, holding it gently, their fingers intertwining. Liara smiled, feeling freedom and certainty fill her heart. Together, she said softly, we will face the universe, its dangers, and its wonders. The court fell silent, and then, one by one, admiration replaced anger. The people began to understand that bravery, loyalty, and choice mattered more than tradition alone. Liara had made history, not with a sword or decree, but with her heart, courage, and conviction. As the sun rose higher, casting golden light over the palace, Liara and Ethan stepped forward, side by side. The future was uncertain, full of adventure and challenges. But for the first time, both knew they would face it together. The princess had claimed her destiny. The human who saved her stood proudly beside her. And the universe seemed to stretch endlessly before them, full of possibilities. Liara's shocking declaration had stunned everyone, but it had also inspired them. And as she walked forward, hand in hand with Ethan, she knew this was only the beginning of a new, extraordinary journey.